Okay, I ain't reading this shit. I didn't read this shit. I didn't buy this shit. I didn't even pirate this shit. Don't put me on a list. That being said, hello, sweethearts and lovelies, and welcome back to Quantum Leap Reviews, where, unfortunately, the reckoning is nigh, and even more than you know, because I have been ordered to say this by official mandate. We had most of the recording in the bag, and then I realized that the setting was wrong on the OBS, and it fucked it all up, and now we had to do it a second time, which is hellish, absolute hell, because we're discussing an Alan Moore comic of dubious quality. I think we've been past the 30-second mark or whatever. God help me. I hope I keep a channel. We're discussing Lost Girls for reasons. Well, these two are. I didn't read this shit. So they are mostly going to be talking about it, and they want to be free of it. And this thing should be working, so dear God, please, be free of it. Begin.
Okay, the thing about Lost Girls you have to understand with that before you even get into any of the fucked up part of it, it's boring. It is an extremely boringly written book. It is not interesting in the way it's written. It's just all the most dull things imaginable. It is boring. Ing, ing, Mike?
I'm sorry. I'm just gone silent. I'm trying to work up the nerve to say anything from how angry we
Yeah,
had
we
to
were
talk
done. We were done. I got to the palate cleanser. I was almost done with the palate cleanser. We were free. Why?
Sisyphus and the
Why?
boulder.
So, welcome to Lost Girls, which is pretty much a bastardized, add more retelling of the stories of three of the most popular characters of 20th century fiction. Wendy from Peter Pan, Dorothy Gale from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and Alice from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I'm going to tell you this right now for the audience. We will not be discussing specifics because, one, we would like Fresno to keep its channel.
Yes.
And
Uh,
number two, oh dear God.
Hell.
yeah. This is a book that, Alan Moore's intentions with writing this book that ultimately resulted in him marrying the artist Melinda Gebbie, who, by the way, is very much carrying this book. Alan Moore is. You can feel Alan Moore's heart is not in this because a lot of it, nothing connects fully, but Melinda Gebbie does some beautiful works. There's an image of Alice that is quite frankly jaw dropping in how beautiful it is. It's like in the second flashback for Alice, where the full page spread, that is just beautiful art. Art, you could put that, that is just you could put that in an actual copy of the Adventures of Alice in Wonderland, and it would fit in place. Whereas the rest of the book is no, no. Oh,
So
no.
I'm just gonna state this for the record, and then we can continue on this railroad track. This is our opinion. You can like the book for being written by Alan Moore and the beautiful. Yes, we are fan. See, I am a fan. I am a dedicated fan of the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So Dorothy's story hurt. And it hurt specifically because it's a bastardized version of not just The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. No, no. Alan Moore did not take the time to. It looked like Alan Moore did not take the time to actually read through the book. He just half remembered plot points from the 1939 movie from NGM. Thought, oh, this is the Wizard of Oz, and hastily wrote down plot points, and
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
this.
to just
This
start with Dorothy, because if I start with Alice, I will fucking eat people's faces. I will eat your fucking face if I have to start with Alice. But to start with Dorothy, the most noble thing with regards to Dorothy's legacy as a fictional character is that all of her partners in the flashbacks are men, whereas in the present day stuff, it's very much her having a queer awakening, falling in love with various women. but in the flashback stories, that's retelling the adventures of Oz. It's men, which is odd given that Dorothy is famous for being a queer icon. Friends of Dorothy is perhaps the most noble phrase, and of course there's Ozma. Like,
Ozma is on screen
just
right now. There it is.
yeah, we just need I just need people to understand how much of a slap in the face this is, because I have pulled up here a small little tidbit from Wikipedia that I will read, and that they've already heard now once and can be shocked again as I read it. When Ozma first meets Dorothy, Oz's greatest hero, in Ozma of Oz, they immediately like each other and become best friends. In the canonical Oz books by Baum, Dorothy and Ozma are each other's closest relationship. In the Emerald City of Oz, Ozma arranges, at Dorothy's request, for Dorothy and her family to move into the palace, and Ozma declares her an official Princess of Oz and her constant companion. In The Lost Princess of Oz, the first page mentions that Ozma loves Dorothy very much, and by page 2 says that Dorothy is the only one privileged to enter Ozma's rooms without an invitation. In turn, Dorothy often represents Ozma when some task takes the latter away from the Emerald City.
Short,
in other words, gay, homosexual, gay.
Just gals being pals.
And that's what I don't it's like Dorothy. It's like they don't. It's like Alan Moore half remembered the 1939 movie, didn't even freaking care about Ozma, which has been a gay icon for decades, which is even weirder because of what, The Mirror with Love that he wrote.
Mirror of Love.
The Mirror of Love. So he should know about Ozma. Doesn't mention her at all.
Though it's worth knowing that the Mirror of Love doesn't actually bring up friends with Dorothy. At most, it brings up Judy Garland.
Yes. So it's like listening to that, to like reading this, which I'm already both sick and pissed off as I read Dorothy's stories. And then it's like they don't even get the message right. It's like they paused. It's like, how do you get this wrong? How do you get this? How do you get the most basic thing wrong?
Yeah, like, okay. The intention of Lost Girls seems to have been started from the point of trying to make pornography a more respected genre, which is perhaps why they picked the various fictional characters, because those are from a more respected genre of children's literature and classic literature at that. But he wanted to use pornography as a genre to explore the more uncomfortable sides of sexuality and not just the titillating thrills that you get in a Michael Bay film. You know, like to do Nicholas Winding Refn action movie, but as a porn. The problem is that the structure of the porn is boring, which it's just to give an example. I'll not gonna go into any specifics, but in a scene where Wendy and Alice have sex, it's themed around the 7 deadly sins, which is very problematic for a bunch of reasons, which I am not going to get into because that would require going into specifics. But the structure of the sex is 2 columns. Column A is 4 horizontal panels depicting the sex, whereas column B is a single image of one of the deadly sins. This is a boring way of depicting sex. It's too rigid and flat. Like, sure, you can do interesting stuff with grids and sex scenes, but you have to actually highlight the movement of things. You can't just have you can't have it just be so rigid with its format.
To give an example of
movement.
A positive way of dealing with this, a comic that you and I both know well, Britain the Prophecy, in the penultimate issue, has a sex scene where, in contrast to the rigidity of the grid, you have this freedom and opening up of the panels and this beautiful expression of love. And
yeah, or if we must stick with the grid, example that comes to mind is the critically acclaimed comic Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Garrett, which uses a 9-panel grid for the entirety of the comic, and uses that and it depicts the sex scene in an interesting way. It highlights specific details of the sex and not just has wide angles depicting the ladies in their entirety. It highlights the intent, the intimacy, the small details rather than just going being all over the place. Or you could go with Colleen Coover's Small Favors, which is another comic produced by, I believe, Top Shelf, though I could be mistaken. And this is a porn comic about out two ladies in their mid 20s. He's having sexual adventures involving in fantasy characters, including the main character's conscience, and having explorations. What's more, or there seems in Alan Moore's comic, there seems to be a lack of interest in kink. Like it's all the most vanilla, boring sex imaginable. Well, it's big. Like at most, he can comprehend anal. Well, there's no bondage here.
Okay,
Or
that's a little bit. That's a little bit.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
okay,
little.
fair enough. But
That's a little.
yeah, it's
We're
vanilla
pushing.
sex. It's
Yeah,
vanilla sex.
yeah, we're pushing the boundary. As you can tell, as this being our second attempt, me and Sean are a little bit peeved.
Just a
Yeah,
little.
we're done. We want to be done.
Uh,
Why
yeah.
is it that these only happen? The OBS only fucks up when we had to discuss the most harrowing shit. Like, oh, we're talking about Dr. Ruth. That's fun. Oh no, I guess we have to talk about it again. No, it's always the most harrowing shit when this happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
going to be. I fear what's gonna happen when we get to the trial.
Half the episodes of Quantum Leap this could happen. But anyway, unfortunately,
Oh,
we're not
God,
talking about Quantum Leap. Unfortunately, we had to talk about this fucking comic book.
Yeah. So that.
Like I would like to stay just for the record. I'm coming at this as someone who generally likes the work of Alan Moore. I think that From Hell is one of the greatest comics ever written. Providence is fucking brilliant, and Watchmen, while if I'm being honest, is a bit mid within the context of Alan Moore's entire bibliography, is still a worthwhile comic to read. This is probably in the top 5 worst things he's ever written. And the only reason why it's not higher is because it doesn't involve a certain Dutch doll.
Dear.
And then you have me, where Alan Moore really hasn't clicked. Like I own Watchmen. I can literally see it on my shelf, and I've tried to read like all of Watchmen, and it's just felt like Alan Moore has this like pretension. I think is the best way to say it, where he just seems like, where it seems like even when he's writing, he tries to come off as like the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, there's
Which
so
is-
much of this book that feels like he's being too clever by half. Like he came up with
Yeah,
the clever idea of doing this premise as a porn comic, and then didn't think of anything to do it. Like a little detail that comes up at the end of the comic, I think that's mentioned in the beginning, is that Alice gets ultimate after all of Alice's adventures, which again we are not going to be specific.
let's be calm. Don't say the word. Just be like, Alice has an
For the adventures.
relation.
She gets sent into a sanitarium where things go horribly, and as a result, her family basically just ships her off to South Africa to run her diamond mines. Alan Moore doesn't think about the implications of Alice owning a diamond mine. He just goes, Alice would have. She was an upper class young woman in the 1800s, early 1900s. She probably would have owned a diamond mine in South Africa. But the comic doesn't really say anything about the diamond mines.
Yeah, really, it really does feel like this comic. It really does feel like this comic goes from point A to point B, takes you along, and whenever you look at anything that even looks remotely like, oh my god, you're already like 5 pages in, you've already seen 4 other horrible things, and you're stuck on this one, and by the time you go all the way through the book, it's like, oh my god, it's like each time you're being dragged through, so it's like you deal, and it's like, and you can tell, and you can even tell when he doesn't have respect for what he's writing about, which is disgusting on a level of like, let me be I've said this before on the Power of the Doctors podcast. One of the rules is you don't insert yourself in like Chibnall did. Alan Moore does this, I think, once near the end where he talks about we are lost. We can't be lost. We can't lose our past.
To
That's
be
not.
fair, you could do that. You could have a this is what the point of this book is a statement of this is the point of the book is, but you kind of have to you have to have but the problem isn't that he says that. The problem is that the rest of the book doesn't support that. Like in From Hell there's a chill like when Jack the Ripper ultimately does his final murder, he walks out staggered and going, the 20th century, I have delivered it. It's one of the most terrifying things, but what's more, you can feel that Alan Moore has done the work to build to that line. Whereas here, there's no work being done to
And,
build to the line.
yeah, and the main issue. Are we still recording, Chris?
Yes, we are.
The main issue that I have, and it pissed me off because you could see it right from the other two in comparison to one of, is that he doesn't care about the characters he picked.
Yeah, like
What we have, what we have here is we have Wendy, who is her story is literally from the book. It's like the way he takes it is he takes everything out of the book of Peter Pan and twists it.
which,
That
given that this is an abridged version, the ultimate ending of Wendy telling off Peter Pan doesn't fully land. Like, she gets to tell off Captain Hook in a way that really works, but it also doesn't fully cohere.
Yeah, but you can tell that he really went into the book and did. Then we get to Dorothy, and Dorothy feels like a bastardized, half-remembered, quick Google search of the plot of the Wizard of Oz movie from 1939.
It's also worth knowing that there's a running gag in the book where Dorothy basically every time Dorothy tells a story, she goes, "Oh, are you English ladies actually listening to me, or are you busy having sex?" And the lady goes, "No, no, we are totally interested in your story."
Which is weird because it's Dorothy Gale, the character you could use to tell the story you're trying to tell, and
It
but
feels
that's not the word. But that's not the worst thing about this book.
like it's Alice.
Dorothy is like the middle of the road. She is the worst character, the one who comes out the worst. And it seems like he didn't even, or when he did the
Like
research,
it's
he
the most
just looked up the
basic version.
names. He
Yeah,
looked at
it's
the most basic version of the Disney cartoon.
which okay, let yeah, there is a long, ugly, depressing history of people reading Alice in Wonderland as a pedophile text. Not the least because of Lewis Carroll's history with photography, which is a long conversation that we are not getting into.
Mm.
That is a assumption. So it could be that Alan Moore kept that assumption in mind when writing that part of the book. Which fuck off.
Alice's entire adventure, starting from the very beginning. Like this is the thing. Dorothy's and Wendy's actually, is like you're on a roller
Dorothy
coaster.
basically has Dorothy's adventure is basically using the power of her vagina. She teaches men and how to be men.
Ah, I don't know if we can we say okay, Fresno, you may have to bleep that word.
I think we can say the word. I think it's more the deep and darker implications of this fucking book that's gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Alice's story, meanwhile, is after a very bad thing happens to her as a little girl involving a mirror, her, her, Alice becomes a lesbian, in,
Uh,
and has several uncomfortable adventures that I'm not getting into. Her a fair reading that I'm sure Alan Moore did not intend to have, but a fair reading that is supported by the text is that she is cured of her lesbianism and states that
when
it's
she
more a fear. It's not so much an attraction of women, but more a fear of men.
when
By
she
being
has relations with Wendy and Dorothy.
yeah,
Oh.
penetrative ones.
Uh
Yeah. This is again. We are very much not going into specifics. We do not want Fresno's channel to go away.
Yeah, I don't want that either. So.
and it's like reading this book, which could have been so different, because you
Like,
have in it you had the literal freaking icon of the gay community. You have Dorothy Gale, friend
yeah,
of Dorothy. You have Ozma. You can tell the main
like
story.
off the top of my head, and you could like if you want to do like if the intention of this book was to do, to not let the girls we once were be lost, the uncomfortable parts of sexuality. You want to tell a story about how about Dorothy falling in love with Ozma, and have it be you already do the bit with her 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 calling her father her uncle for a
Yeah.
variety of reasons, which we are not getting into. We are not getting into that. But you could have you have Dorothy tell her story about Ozma be, oh, it was my boyfriend. And whereas the pictures very clearly depict this is a lesbian relationship. Yep, that goes sour. Because yeah, sometimes this is an honest depiction of sexuality, which does mean you have to talk about how the depressing parts. But you could have more uplifting parts in the present day.
It just and then you have specifically, like, one of the things that really pissed me. Well, it's not bad, but the entire basically we are following these three girls and trying to find. While around them, the world has decided to basically explode, because
Yeah,
apparently for some reason Alan Moore decided to set our little story into the minds of these caricatures that are supposed to be Wendy, Dorothy, and Alice, but very clearly aren't them
yeah,
in the First World War.
yeah. To give you an idea, the Pe- like Peter Pan comes out in 1904. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is 1865, and The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is 1900. In which, if you're gonna parallel them, why these three texts? There's nothing that correlates with these three texts in terms of their existence in comparison to each other than the movie.
Mm.
And furthermore, the World War One stuff, you could make something interesting with that. Sort of like going with Alan Moore's long-running theme of the battle between love and war, or where love is inherently good because he's an old hippie. But there are several characters in this that are on the side of war, but like the Dorothy's boy toy Rolf, who basically disappears from the book entirely without any fanfare, and Wendy's shitty husband, and who is building battleships that are clearly dazzle ships, but Alan Moore never names them dazzle ships.
And then you
Yeah,
have and then you have the actual, like, assassination that started World War
yeah,
One.
you
You
have
have
two.
that happen.
Yeah, you have two sequences of violence. It's the Rite of Spring and the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
But that's what I mean. It's like when you have like these two, like, it's almost like what Alan Moore had is he had that revelation of, what connects these stories? What can I tell this story about? Where can I, lead this to? And so what he does is he says, "Oh, I know. They all went to this hotel because of reasons, and it's about the beginning of World War One, and by the end, they all get thrown out. They all get thrown out of the hotel. Um, can I tell Fresno the ending? Because
Yeah. So at after the girls leave the hotel and have some pretty good lines, uh, the German soldiers go to the hotel and basically burn it up for because they need firewood and a place to leave. We go through the smoke and we cut to a dying soldier in the battlefields of war, or that pans down to a blooming flower, which overall goes to the theme of that Almor says at the end. Beautiful things can grow out of something ugly. But again, he doesn't do the work.
Yeah, he doesn't do the work. And what is another spit in the face is you have this mirror, which is set up through all of Alice's thing as this is her other side. This is this, and she's kept that mirror, and that mirror is with her throughout the entire story. Near the end of the story, when the soldiers show up, one of the soldiers takes the mirror and smashes it and says, "Stop using it for your stories."
Don't like
Yeah,
that.
Taking the
no,
agency away from Alice.
Though actually no, I think that's a misreading. It's more like she says towards the end that she thought she was that the girl on the other side of the mirror is now out back with her again. She's whole. Well, which again goes into the whole complicated aspects. But a more interesting idea that Alan Moore doesn't explore is the sexuality of war. This is, after all, World War One, a war in which an all-male company goes out and penetrates each other with long shafts.
But also, I have to commit to the bit and say, breaking mirrors. Don't like that.
Yep.
Just
Yeah. Again.
uh, that's what that's what we want to get at. And this may not even end up being 30 minutes because we're pissed and we want to be done.
We just about have hit the 30-minute mark, by the by.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. In which case, I'm gonna get. Okay.
All right. So before,
thoughts. Let's.
yeah.
Do
So
we have
final
anything?
thoughts.
Do we have anything specific to say before final thoughts and the palate cleanser?
Yeah. So this story, I can understand why people would go on and be like, "Oh, this is Alan Moore writing, and this is the artwork's beautiful and da da da." This is about the same way as I would describe Zagreus. Although while I liked Zagreus in Zagreus, this story I did not like. And the moment you push your finger through the hard shell into the seedy underbelly, you realize that, oh dear God, oh dear God, oh dear God, it is a horrible bastardization of three of the most popular female characters in early 20th century fiction, taking their stories. That's not even the full account of their stories. One of them is Wendy's, who has the most agency in her own story, while the other two are misremembered, half cobbled together,
And furthermore, are just pushed around by the elements outside of their control. Like
yeah.
they don't have agency. The closest is maybe Alice towards the end of her story.
But
Maybe towards the end of their stories, I guess. Uh, I think Dorothy could be argued as leaving by her own volition, but you could argue that was also more because of her stepmother, whereas Alice has a nervous breakdown due to her experiences that led her to go to an asylum, because of course Alice goes to the fucking asylum. Of course she does.
it's just
It's
this story. This story is despicable. It does.
okay. For my thoughts,
Yeah, your thoughts.
or even before it got weird, this was true. This is Alan Moore at his most Neil Gaiman. I don't mean the stuff that came out recently, though. You could probably no, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
No.
Oh.
No.
But rather, the thing about Neil Gaiman's later career, after he got famous, this is fucking twee. Put aside all the stuff about all the uncomfortable stuff, all the various stuff that makes this repugnant, and you're left with a book that's fucking twee. This is the most twee interpretation of these characters. It's surface level. Oh, It's surface level interpretations of these characters that doesn't have anything of note to say about them beyond on generalities that you could get from half remembered Wikipedia articles or childhood memories. I honestly don't see why this exists. It doesn't build to anything, and it keeps making comments about how it's the point is that it doesn't build it to anything. Like, fuck off, Alan, and genuinely fuck off. Off. This is crap. This is probably this is again top 5 worst things. It's boring. I'm bored by this. This except for the parts where you're pissing me off because you're shit. Like, okay, you want to tell a story about honest sexuality between women, and fine. Why do you have to tell it so boringly?
Why do you have to? And why do you have to warp three of the most popular female characters in fiction to do it?
Okay, and now for a palate cleanser, The Mirror of Love
The
by
floor is
Alan Moore.
yours.
Even preceding landfall, things loved freely once, ignoring gender. Blind desire made pond slime fish turn fish to apes with sex, life's glorious engine, churning in the mud. The animals remember. Dolphins still rotate their matings between their own sex and its reverse, their raptures echoing for miles. On land, the first societies, great herds of she beasts raised their young together, without males, whose part in reproduction was unknown. The women licked and groomed each other, with men watching, circling round. In the beginning, then, 3 million years of motherhood. The word came later, and the word was power, was patriarchy. Firstborn children squirmed on altars of a father god. The word was law. In Sumer, women scorning men had teeth crushed with burned bricks. Law, once conceived, applied to everything. Leviticus condemned most sexual practices as unclean, including that between two men. This was designed to snub the Canaanites, whose male priests practiced sodomy. Had they been cannibals instead, how different might things be? We gasped upon Devonian beaches, huddled under Neolithic stars, spat blood through powdered teeth, stained each other as we kissed. Always we loved. How could we otherwise, when you are so like me, my sweet, but in a different guise? We loved, while the great Mediterranean cultures flourished, their homoerotic urges troubling them not at all. Regarding man boy love as civilized, the Greeks and Romans made it thus a badge of class and rank within their careful edifice of power. The Spartan army ventured further. Male love was enforced, producing soldiers who defended their frontline lovers to the death. Demanding tougher breeds, they exposed infants to the elements, particularly girls. Perhaps because of this, by the time Rome invaded, there were only 16 Spartans left. Corinth's transvestite troops aside, this usage was unique. We were creators. Homer sought in verse to hug Achilles' shade, while on her isle exquisite Sappho reminisced of myrrh poured on her lover's head, of girls upon soft mats with all they most desired beside them. Yet this tolerance could not endure. The rise of Christianity, which quite ignored Christ's love for outcasts and instead embraced moral severity, defining, defining sex as base, an obstacle to faith. St. Paul named same sex love for the first time as sin. Ah, sin. Was that its name, which stole a kiss behind the interlocking shields of war? Sin that made Sappho weep and write, I have not had one word from her. With baby blood upon their hands, they saw our love and named it sin. Thomas Aquinas, by the 13th century, had systemized degrees of vice, including copulation with an undue sex. Since in the high dark ages such pronouncements were quite readily made law, burnings occurred, beheadings, bodies twisting slowly in the breeze. Although to hang for sodomy alone was rare, such charges loaned vendettas weight. Knights Templar, charged with sodomy, had instead pressed had instead pressed Philip of France for debts he couldn't pay. The Pope, owing Philip in turn, arranged the Templars' persecution. Then, as now, our love was used conveniently as a smear. As the Renaissance blossomed, cities gradually returned, and in their alleys our subculture thrived, a pale night blooming flower. Despite church savagery, an improved social climb once more brought forth our muse. Thus Michelangelo gazed heavenwards into a crowded Sistine sky and told his dear Amasu that though vain, malignant hordes attribute what their grosser wills obey, yet should this love, this, this faith, pure love, pure joy afford. How could he know upon his pallet there, creating heaven from a hell of cramped discomfort, chisel trembling on the brink of freeing David's shoulder from chill rock? How could he know what trials the future held, how gross its will? My love, the vain, malignant hordes are with us still. The 16th century favored cross dressed men in women's roles, forging a bond between our culture and theater that endures today. That era's greatest dramatist, in sonnets to his benefactor, Mr. W.H., proclaimed his love more ringingly than he portrayed the ruin of dynasties. In time, such friendship, passionately expressed, became the custom, and society, having no great desire to punish what was then a harmless commonplace, having no word for homosexuality, could draw platonic veils across our love and look away. Nowhere was this more evident than with the ladies of Angolan, women living openly together in eccentric isolation, objects of suspicion, yet also of fascinated awe. Amusing in their tantrums, cherishing the picturesque, they scattered rosebuds round their cottage, banished Wordsworth when he slayed it in verse. Without them, history's diminished. We grew, but in obscurity. Emily Dickinson described her lover's breasts as fit for pearls, her words unread, her voice unheard, till she was dead. Amidst his dust-tanned voice, Walt Whitman dreamed a new city of friends, build from tender glances in the hired hand scrum. So Shakespeare dipped a quill into his troubled soul, while Eleanor and Sarah fired their servants and nailed poems to trees. On Emily's pure heart, her lovers wait a night. Who'll care, my love? Who'll guard such fragile gems as these? Only within enlightened cultures could we breathe. Natalie Barney's salon, scandalized and entertained, where Gertrude Stein took tea and Hari naked rode jeweled stallions. Outrageous Natalie, who, spurned by Renee Vivienne, delivered herself in a satin coffin to the poet's door while Paris smiled. Elsewhere in Leipzig in 1869, one K.M. Benkert first referred to homosexuality. Industrial England's view that all might be explained by science prompted doctors to declare us merely ill, not friends or sinners after all. The Molly houses rattled in the wind. The climate changed as Oscar Wilde learned to his cost, too fond of working lads, of feasting with panthers. His beloved's father, a marquis, denounced him as a sodomite. Pressing for slander, recklessly Wilde was exposed, condemned to reading Goyle, then exiled in disgrace. The era closed with Wilde's mauve 90s fading to gray, and yet contained the seeds of something proud, humane. From Germany before the century's end came the first protests against laws on sodomy. Emancipation had begun. Such times born to Tchaikovsky's guns that could not drown his whispering heart, such times that closed with our fists, faltering steps to liberty. And I marched as I loved, my dear, with thee, always with thee. Dignity marched abreast with shame. Disqualified from open love, we rendezvoused in squalor, all we were allowed. Our culture, embracing Colette, writing so perfectly with Missy's name upon her anklet, also came to know dark hallways, reeking lavatories, reminded in our tenderness of our equivalence with shit. The First World War, ironically, allowed new closeness. Young men lived and died together in foreign mud. There, Wilfred Owen gave his love a sonnet and disc of identity, bidding his heartbreak kiss it night and day until the name grew blurred, fading away. Alas, war brought not comradeship alone, and in defeated Germany, the crippling war debt was a loam where fascist flowers thrived horribly. By 1933, we were already targets of the Reich, but still did not suspect how far we had to fall. In slaughterhouses labeled with pink triangles, our thousands died. The showers, they say, held bodies piled as if the strong and the desperate had climbed on lovers' backs to flee the gas, betraying at last our love, the thing we thought they couldn't take. Can you imagine? Can you? Darling, do not weep. 'Twas just a dream, a nightmare gathered on the century's brow, and if it comes again, I'll hold you till dawn, as well as I know how. As day broke over Europe, troops returned, some bringing newfound ways of life to settle on the Barbary coast in Portsmouth or New York. New worlds seemed possible, and Ginsburg howled against a state that called us communists, not satisfied with branding us diseased. The Machine Society, America's first group for homosexual men, was formed in 1950, followed by the female-oriented Darza Biltis. Meanwhile, England saw campaigns for homosexual rights, while Orton wrote of dark young men with new and dangerous moralities. In 1967, Britain legalized the sexual act between consenting adult males, while gradually across America, states came to modify their laws. Though still harassed, we were yet jubilant, the first rung in our climb achieved. We splashed in Hockney's pools and danced to Brian Epstein's band. On Friday, June the 27th, 1969, routine police raids on the Stonewall Inn bar in Greenwich Village sparked the riots from which gay liberation sprang. Did Judy Garland's death, or did 5,000 years of history propel us through the streets and with our anger fire the night? Remembering running in between the blazing trash cans, holding hands, laughing above the sirens, unafraid and pure. We knew that freedom could be won, that nothing could prevent it. We were sure, my love. We were so sure. That was before the virus. AIDS changed everything. Though first affecting heterosexuals, who comprised 9/10 of the afflicted worldwide, church and press spoke of a gay plague. And we were so close to being recognized as fully human, we were instead transformed to medieval boogeymen. A human tragedy thus licensed human bigotry. Police claimed to speak for God, describing persons having AIDS as swilling in a self-made cesspit, while Councillor Brownhill, a conservative, recalled an earlier final solution, offering to gas the queers. Margaret Thatcher praised their forthrightness. She led a clause passed into law that her chief minister for local government described as being aimed at banishing all traces of homosexuality. The act itself, all gay relationships, even the abstract concept would be gone from on, a word torn from the dictionary. Shall we be scapegoats as they used the Templars, Canaanites, and Jews? Or will AIDS force abandonment of prejudice, a fruitive silence over sex, to save their very lives? As we approach the future, will utopia's spires hove into view, or death camp chimney stacks? My love, I wish I knew. While life endures, we'll love, and afterwards, if what they say is true, I'll be refused a heaven crammed with popes, policemen, fundamentalists, and burn instead, quite happily, Sappho, Michelangelo, and you, my love. I'd burn throughout eternity with you. And that's my favorite Alan Moore thing ever.
What you have just said is 100% like that is everything that Lost Girls is not.
Holy
It goes right
fucking
through,
shit.
hits hits right to the very core, and basically goes th- that right. And you needed the full stanza to say it,
Oh my god.
because that is legitimately the, like, I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not trying to go say, try to critique everything, anything about it, because that is 100% everything that Lost Skulls tries to be and fails.
Yeah, he put the work into it. He saw his people. He saw people he loved his ex-wife, the woman who would be his ex-wife and her partner, are being discriminated against a culture that wanted them dead. And so he wrote that poem in protest for Clause 27, which targeted gay people. Well, Lost Girls, meanwhile, is clever. It's witty. It has ideas, but it doesn't do anything with them. It has no teeth. It's toothless.
It's a blind and
Whereas the
toothless
Mirror of
tiger.
Love, as is well befitting a lot of works of that time, is motivated by sheer hateful spite towards Mrs. Thatcher, which
Honestly, making spiteful art against Margaret Thatcher seems to have been the best way to make art, in a way that sadly no one has been able to capture with current politicians.
Oh hi, Happiness Patrol. When did you get here?
oh hey, I can pull this back full circle. Oh hello, Britain of prophecy.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Mike, since you haven't read, the first issue of Britain of Prophecy ends with the main villain declaring his intent to take over the world while holding the severed head of Margaret Thatcher.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and he's like a fey prince, queen.
He's a fey fascist.
Yes, yes, yes. And while I'm at, while we're saying all this stuff about freedom of expression, every scene with the Fae, this faction of the Fae, is done in the grid, whereas everything with the
Yeah.
queer people is
Yeah.
all free of the grid and stuff.
Yeah.
Order versus chaos is beautiful.
Yeah.
It
They put
just
the work in.
it really does show, like, how deep of a, because this says everything that Lost Skulls should say but doesn't. And that is 100% how
So
it just.
that was a beautiful way to
So
end. I think we're free, kids. I think we're free.
yeah,
The
I think
evil
we're
is defeated.
check again, check again.
I mean, I'm looking at my OBS.
My recording is going fine.
I'm looking at my OBS, and the fucking thing is moving when you talk, so it should be fucking good.
Okay,
Mine is
good.
good in case the OBS is corrupted somehow.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So, well, all that remains now that we've finally finished this Faustian bargain
Yeah.
is the beginning of the redemption. So because
Yeah.
these two had to read this fucking thing, they each get, instead of spinning the wheels, just pick whatever they want. Now they can go. Oh, they can either go and choose the path of love and I want to talk about something good, or they can go full scorchers and go no fuck you. You're talking about this bad thing. And the first one to pick is Mike. So, Michael, which is it gonna be?
So, originally I was seeing all red, and I was like, you know what, just pick Cromwell and be done with it. Then I sat down and thought about it and went, what if we did a good adaptation? So I remembered a movie from my youth called The Adventures of Pinocchio, which was made in 1996 with Martin Landis, and it is a pretty good adaptation. And it also has connections with Quantum Leap, and instead of it being a blue fairy that brings Pinocchio to life, it's unrequited love, a heart carved into the tree. And I thought, that's pretty good. But as I sat here with you two over time, and especially mentioning and remembering the fact of how you could possibly mess this up, next time on Quantum Leap Reviews, we're gonna show exactly how you what this book was missing. As me and my friends here, Fresno and Sean, talk to you about the sequel to The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Marvelous Land of Oz.
It's finally happening. They're making me talk about Oz. So what is the Marvelous Land of Oz? Like, what is
I
that?
sent it to you.
Oh, you sent. Oh, that's
Okay.
the link in the chat. Okay. But
So where can you find us, lovely people?
you can find us.
So,
Wait, I want to know what.
yeah,
I want to know what Marvelous Land of Oz is first. What
the
is
Marvelous
that
Land,
adapting?
the Marvelous Land of Oz, as you stare at right there, is the second book of. So this is the direct sequel to The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Dorothy is Dorothy is in Kansas. She is no. This book. This book does not have Dorothy in it whatsoever.
Oh.
This is Tip's story. This is Tip's story into Ozma.
Okay. I'm on board. I'm on fucking board. Okay, so I'm gonna end this sucker now. You don't need to say anymore. So you can find us all on Bluesky. Link down below. Recently, as I uploaded the Miami Vice episode, I realized that YouTube has done this new feature where it prevents you from having clickable links in the description unless you either record a 6-second video of yourself or send YouTube a copy of your ID. That ain't gonna fucking happen, so you're just gonna have to deal with looking up the clickable links yourselves.
Yeah, so what Fresno's doing is he's put down in the description below the ability where you can just highlight and click and bring it up to the taskbar yourself, because we ain't doing that, because that is a bunch of bull that they've started to basically go.
Yeah, but
why? That doesn't help safety. That doesn't.
It's because they want to keep you on YouTube.
Yeah. Anyway, also, we all have blogs. FrustedServerants.blogspot.com. Michael Hooving Thoughts.blogspot.com. The King of Red and Blue .blogspot.com. Sean has comic stuff and some books.
I have a letterbox.
You're not logging Cromwell yet.
And, no, I'm not logging over yet. I may log the Adventures of Pinocchio because I did rewatch that.
YouTube.com/Rainiac for Doctor Who reviews. YouTube.com/Kuchiri for Common Writer reviews. And next time, Oz.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you have a wonderful time, and I would like to apologize in advance for you having to experience necromantia.
Yay, that's my suffering. Well, I'd like to apologize for making you have to do this fucker twice like it's a Ghosts and Goblins. So we're gonna end it now and end your suffering. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.